Blizzard have lost 8.5% of their players in Q1 of 2019. That's down year over year 16%. And while the overall holding company of Activision-Blizzard had a solid-ish quarter, well, part of that is what they called operational restraint. Yeah, a nice way to say the sacking of over 800 people. With a sparse year ahead for both Activision Publishing and Blizzard Entertainment, we have instead heard them talk about their future plans. Plans which I think many of you will be worrying about. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Industry Report, the mostly daily show where we look into, well, the situation behind the most important headlines going on. And today, well, it's earnings call season, and given the recent history of the company, Activision-Blizzard is potentially the most interesting one out there. With the loss of 800 staff and the Destiny franchise, and a slow 2019, just what is going on? Okay, first remember, Activision-Blizzard is the overall company. Blizzard Entertainment and Activision Publishing, they are two business units of that company, as is King. So Blizzard leaving Activision, that doesn't really make sense in light of how they're actually structured. And that's something that's very important to point out as we move into this. So while Activision Blizzard have found themselves in a rough spot, they seem to have navigated it decently well from a financial perspective, but at a pretty darn clear cost. What does that cost? People. Operational discipline. That is the phrase that CEO Bobby Kotick used. Now, as we covered, they didn't let go those people because they couldn't afford those people. They did it because they did not want them. Business is pretty darn cold, and it's pretty darn clear that they wanted to trim fat, reduce role duplication across the company, and all of that stuff. Of course, it's still a large decrease to their long-term staffing costs, though that still is something that could increase a bit as the company is looking to hire more developers, which is something that's in line with their goal to increase content output. Now, operational discipline, that is a cold way to put it, and I think Kotick & Co. could have handled themselves a lot better, yet operational discipline is something that's important, and a lack of that is what got them into their staffing mess in the first place. Those 800 roles didn't appear out of nowhere. Kotick & Co. created those roles. We learned that basically the organization was pretty darn sloppy in its, well, organization, and that they placed a number of bets that did not pay off. Those were mistakes from the leadership team, not from the rank and file. So to see no cuts to C-level employee bonuses and pay, I think that's pretty absurd from their board. Now, I can't say any names, but let's just say I know examples of people who have got money, they have overhired, they pretty much equaled their burn rate to their cash flow, and they've had problems. Operational discipline. Still though, those harsh realities, they don't really excuse how Activision Blizzard actually handled the situation, which, I mean, we've been through and it was not great. Okay, let's move past that creepy goblin language to some more creepy goblin language. Monthly active users, MAUs. They're a very important metric, especially as almost all of the Activision Blizzard portfolio is designed around continued engagement. Well, on that, Blizzard lost 8.5% of their users quarter to quarter, moving from 35 million to 32 million, so that's a loss of 3 million players. So that's 3 million people who no longer log into any Blizzard service. I would hazard to guess that overall engagement of the average user was also quite a bit down. Now, what would that be reflected in? Well, revenue. That's what it would be reflected in. And revenue is around what they expected, $344 million, which is just a little bit higher than Activision Publishing's $317 million, which itself outperformed expectations because of Sekiro's strong performance and Call of Duty Black Ops 4 engaging players better than Call of Duty World War II did. Now, across the company, the expectations were set low on purpose. For Blizzard, their operating income was 16% lower year over year, with its lower revenue partially being offset by lower costs. Now, they of course cut staff, and they also shut down Heroes of the Storm esports, which is pretty rough. I think what I find interesting is the franchise to revenue efficiency. Activision are really pulling out similar revenue with far less game, and that's surely something they're going to be looking at. I think from the business people's perspective, to them, it will be very clear that Blizzard are leaving a lot of money on the table, let's just say. Diving deeper into the Blizzard segment, well, they said that Overwatch MAUs are down quarter over quarter. That makes a lot of sense given the game's stagnancy. Now, later on during the Q&A part of the conference call, Blizzard President J. Allen Brack did talk about their latest Overwatch event and the positive reception to their workshop on the test servers, so that could somewhat turn around, but I mean right now, Overwatch does not seem to be doing that well. Hearthstone's latest expansion is said to have performed better than the previous two for engagement. That's not a high bar from all that I know, but it is good for Blizzard, with J. Allen Brack saying that they have increased the development team's headcount and are excited for the upcoming PvE content that's being added to the game. Then as for World of Warcraft, really, they didn't say much about it of any substance. I imagine there are very heavy losses there. It's a game that has really struggled, and for those who only see this channel, or, you know, the algorithms booped you onto this channel, I've actually been running a World of Warcraft channel for 5 years. It's what got me started on YouTube, so trust me, WoW's in a really, really rough spot. The next update could help stem the bleeding, but I mean, the most recent expansion is not in a good position. So Blizzard are struggling. Activision-Blizzard are pretty aware of that, and they said that their longer-term plans for Blizzard will take time to bear fruit. And they were clear that the top priority of the Blizzard Entertainment unit of Activision-Blizzard is to just get more content in the hands of players. And that is indeed something that Activision-Blizzard said that Activision Publishing could do better with Call of Duty, with them feeling like their performance past the launch quarter of a Call of Duty game could be better. And they said they were excited about the next Call of Duty, but no details. Now, King seemed to have had slight growth and deeper engagement, but I think it's clear, really, that King is no longer going to be the only mobile segment, and that's where we have to get onto the future plans, and I think what will make people worried. First, it's clear they still value the $60 release, with them saying that upfront content for a premium has a significant appeal to their players, and that they're pleased that's something they can continue to do, so they will keep the $60 model in the future, but that additional resources can be used to take advantage of mobile. Now look, this is not them being saints. Just look at how much revenue Call of Duty sales generate. And then that's being said, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is a $60 game that then has a full suite of free-to-play like microtransaction systems in it. So, I mean, I really think the main takeaway here is they will do free-to-play monetization everywhere, in everything, and they will charge you a hefty sum of money to actually get entry to that when they can, just like with Call of Duty. Past that, they see massive growth potential in mobile, both in general and then also specifically in the Asian market. Now, to that end, they have, with Tencent, they have a studio working on Call of Duty Mobile. That's a game that seems to have significant interest, with them reporting 10 million pre-registrations on the Google Play Store. And personally, I think that game will be fairly massive. I mean, especially if they ship Blackout Mode, which would be a pretty novel free-to-play battle royale for the mobile market, and that certainly is something that could do pretty darn well in China. Now, that's not it, though. CEO Bobby Kotick talked about how they want to expand all franchises into mobile. And I think that's something that's pretty darn clear when you see that that is one of their 4 main focus areas, with that slide saying we are building on our existing mobile leadership as we extend our claimed console and PC franchises to the largest and fastest growing gaming platform. Ugh. It's sad to say that he's right. Almost everyone does have a phone, and of course we've got that funny line from BlizzCon, you know, you've got phones, don't you? But we know this has been an initiative at Blizzard for years, with there being a WoW pet battle Pokemon Go styled game that is being led by WoW's Corey Stockton, plus a number of other projects with job listings hinting at a wide range of mobile titles, seemingly ranging from action to strategy. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw StarCraft Clash Royale. We already have Diablo Immortal. We'll have WoW Battle Pet Pokemon Go. We've got Hearthstone, perhaps even more. Who knows what an Overwatch mobile game would be? I mean, it's sad. I mean, if I see StarCraft Mobile, I just don't want to think about what that would be. But the core point is this. They want to make a massive move towards the mobile market, especially focused on Asia. And it's pretty darn clear from the money perspective. It's just too damn good. Fortnite soared to 50 million users, but what really propelled it to that 200 million mark, well, that was the mobile release. They talked about not taking additional mobile revenue into account during for their 2019 predictions. So I'd say these moves are likely going to bear fruit in their 2020 and 2021 slates. Past that, they are also becoming more interested in free-to-play, with them saying that they have reinvested in their tech platforms in order to facilitate free-to-play exploration. Great. Engagement-wise, they view new models of engagement being a really big focus. That's going to involve, quote, expanding the reach, engagement, and monetization of our franchise as we build on early successes in esports, in-game advertising, and consumer initiatives. Yeah, in-game advertising. Have you ever logged into Call of Duty Black Ops 4? I mean, it ain't pretty. They're trying to sell you something everywhere. Now, as for esports, well, they said that OWL has had watch time increase over Season 1. I'm a bit suspicious about that, to be honest with you, because, well, they could just increase that stat by changing their programming to better optimize around watch time, and I've just not seen that much excitement about competitive Overwatch recently, but that would require further research. Call of Duty is also attempting to emulate the Overwatch model, with Activision having sold the first batch of franchises for that esports league. Personally, I don't care that much, but it is true that esports is pretty important for maintaining engagement, as it provides a sort of non-gameplay way to interact with a game, including future spending opportunities. Right, finally, one of Bobby's opening quotes was interesting to me. He talked about how their franchise-focused approach is more relevant than ever because gamers are playing fewer games for longer, meaning that creating new franchises and breaking into the market is harder than ever. And I mean, he pretty much is spot on there. It is pretty true in the AAA scene anyway, and I think that's sort of evidenced by the bloodbath of Q4 2018. But that said, it's a chicken and egg, Bobby. It really is. This has happened because it's more financially efficient to continue just creating more entries to existing franchises than creating new franchises. That impacts the range of available games, and therefore it impacts player behavior. Companies are less willing to take ground, or new ground, and perhaps if companies were more willing to do that, then maybe both players and publishers wouldn't be doubling down on known franchises. So it seems like he's complaining about a problem he, partially created. So that's essentially the gist of it, and a few of my own thoughts thrown in. Overall, no one expected Activision-Blizzard to do well. Blizzard are losing a lot of players. That's definitely bad, but it's not surprising given, how much attention I put into their input, or their output based on, my other channel. The performance of Activision makes a lot of sense, given Sekiro being great, and the disgustingly effective monetization of Black Ops 4, which is disgusting. Overall, we're going to see them focus on creating more content for their existing franchises. That could be okay for their core audience, I suppose. Definitely, I think people are more hungry for core Blizzard games, but at the same time, we're going to see more investment in mobile and free-to-play. I don't really want that at all. And, probably less in the way of new IP. Hopefully, Sekiro shows that, just the older way of doing things can still work, but I'm skeptical. Activision continues to be Activision. Blizzard continues to be slipping, falling further away from the idealized version of the company that so many players had in their head from years ago. Overall, my view of this is, that it's pretty much expected. The operational discipline thing is the most interesting one for me, and I think by talking about it from all angles, I really don't want to be excusing the manner in which they did that. And for me, it's they removed those jobs not because they needed to save the money, probably, but because they didn't want the jobs, and their organization was, pretty organized, as I said. And, the thing is, they got into that situation through bad operational discipline, so it really is their own fault, and I just don't like how they've been trying to spin that stuff, and just overall within the industry, there's been a lot of job losses lately. There's been a lot of people talking about crunch. It just seems like there's going to be a lot of brain drain, people moving over into other areas of tech where they'll get better salaries and better benefits. That's going to decrease the quality of games because the best people are going to be moving elsewhere. And on the topic of operational discipline, it's operational discipline is not only removing staff that you don't want. Operational discipline really should be growing your company in a healthy and sustainable way and not putting your employees through crunch and all of those problems. And it just seems like it's that industry-wide lack of operational discipline that's leading to crunch and burnout, and that seems to be one of the clearest threats to the health of the AAA sector, which is something that doesn't really seem to be that great right now. So as always, indies are great. These AAA people are, not doing the best job in the world. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. And with that, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.